appreciate your time today. I was checking out your stuff on YouTube. I noticed that you started it a couple of years ago and you've already grown. You've got so many subscribers and checked out your testimonials. You've got so many testimonials on your website. A lot of people saying really good things about you, and that shows that you know what you're doing. And I saw that you're in sales as well, and got my attention. I love salespeople. I like how they hustle, they get out there, they handle objections, and they just keep going, man. So, and you got the tiger in the background, so I love it, man. So welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you very much for having me.
No worries, man. Cool. I think the thing that also is really interesting, you're in the mortgage industry, right? So I'm just curious, how did you get into that one, the mortgage loan industry?
Yeah, great question. So, I've been in sales pretty much all my life, not in a professional sales environment like the mortgage industry until I was about 20 years old. I got in as a telemarketer. At the time that I joined in, I was in a different place in my life. I was actually waiting to get shipped out to the military because I felt like I didn't have, many options. And so what I did in the interim as I was getting prepared was I got hired as a loan officer for a mortgage company. Little did I know they were one of the world's largest subprime lenders, second to only Countrywide. So not to me, those names may not necessarily be familiar, but in short, who this company was, put it in perspective, this was a company that was selling a much higher rate, a ton of closing costs, but their niche was that, we could work with very low FICO scores, or we could go stated, right? Like no income, no assets type verification. And we can close quick. So that was the niche per se. And you had to learn, a different way of selling, where most salespeople typically sell based on, price, right? Or rate or fees, things like that. And we had to learn, the hard way. But nonetheless, after about 6 months of telemarketing, I got promoted to loan officer. And this is before the licensing was required. But, I stayed with that company for a while. And then I grew as a loan officer and went into the wholesale world. And it was so different because the sales techniques that I learned was different from everyone else, which allowed me to sell higher rates and higher fees. So now compliance and what happened with the real estate meltdown in 2008, they changed all of that. So you can't overcharge. You have to have a license number and things like that. But nonetheless, I collected a ton of mentoring tips along the way, in which I was able to apply and easily adapt into a professional and corporate environment. And it was very off the cuff, not your mainstream stuff. It was more focused around providing value, to the person that you're engaging with first and foremost. Value anywhere from not just price, not just rate, but value along the lines of helping you tailor and design something specific to your needs, because there's a result that you're looking for, and that's where the focus was most of the time. And I think a lot of salespeople in today's environment, because of maybe social media or technology, they're more focused on an immediate transaction, one transaction, right? And it's more or less like a pitch and ditch. So like, hey, this is what I got. Do you want it? No. Are you sure? No. Okay, fine. And call the next person. But I think there's a missing piece still, where a lot of salespeople look at themselves and treat the prospect as a sale and a salesperson as opposed to a servant. And I think a lot of that has to do with ego. But when you get to that perspective where I'm not selling you, I'm serving you a plan that's designed specifically to achieve what you're trying to do, then that creates the trust, the bond, and the loyalty.
I love that. I love it how, you're not just a sales guy, you're a servant. You're there to, provide value, there to help them and, solve their problems. So that's really good. Yeah. I know a lot of salespeople who are listening right now, they probably watch your stuff. They've seen you, train people, and they want to ask you a lot of questions on sales as well. So So let's have a look at rejection, because, you know, we're getting rejected a
Yeah.
lot on the phone and everything. How do you, I know that you've been through it for many years, but how do you deal with that rejection when you just get rejected so much, you're in a sales slump and you just can't close any deals? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, that's another great question. You know, because I have a sales team under me that in which I manage and I lead, but I also went through a fair deal of rejection myself.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest lessons that I learned about it, and it really changed the way I reacted to rejection, was that rejection is actually good because it's part of failing. So the faster you fail, the faster you will actually succeed, only if you learn from the rejection or from the failure. Does that make sense?
Mm.
And it had, I looked at it differently because I used to get burnt out. Like, no one wants to buy, you know, this is frustrating. Maybe I'm not in the right profession, right? Or maybe it's the company's fault. And a lot of salespeople begin to look outward, meaning, oh, it's because of my company. It's because of the leads. It's because of the price, as opposed to looking within. And when you look within from a rejection experience, you're going to pick apart and analyze it and say, okay, you know, what happened here? You know, why did they reject it? Was it something that I said? And my mentor at the time, we had these old, this is way before, you know, smartphones. We had the real old school tape recorder with a very small cassette. And he gave it to me, you know, it was his. He's all, here, use this, record your calls. Not only the first engagement, but most importantly, the pitch call, and record your follow-ups too. And so I did that, and I didn't, you know, understand the true meaning of it. But after I gathered so many calls, he then sat down with me and said, okay, let's play the call. You know, and so as we listened, certain objections came about at certain times that were frequent at specific times because of my script. So I was
Okay.
actually the one that was inviting the objection based on what I said. And so all you had to do was then tweak and say, and listen back and say, instead of saying this, say that, because what you're doing is you're putting the prospect on defense. And that is when I think it really turned for me, because I almost became like shy and almost scared of trying again, because I just felt like I'm just going to get smacked in the face. I'm going to get rejected,
Yeah.
you know? But that's a good sign. If you're going through rejection, it's a good sign, meaning you are getting a glimpse at how to properly do it. But you have to take a step back and assess it. Whereas a lot of salespeople nowadays, they still play the old school numbers game, right? I just got to talk to 100 people and hopefully I can get 10 yeses. I was told that too, but I'm about efficiency. If I talk to 100 people, I want to close 99 of them. I don't want to close 10 of them. Does that make sense?
That's really good. Yeah, yeah. I love that. So you recommend to record yourself and also have a look at the script, because your script is inviting the particular type of objection. And then if you
Yeah.
just adjust the script, then, you know, you can, you know, dodge that type of objection and it will just have like a different response. It's awesome. That's cool, man.
Yeah. And most reasons why the script doesn't work or is ineffective is because if you listen to the tonality or you say it out loud, you record it, the tone is offering, or it's you know, it's checking in. So like traditional script would sound something like, you know, hey, Code, this is Daniel from A, B, and C company. I was wondering if you're in the market to do this, right? Or, hey, did you hear about our new special? It's asking, it's offering. Whereas all you have to do is just adjust your script and act as if it's already happening, whether you like it or not. So my script to you would be, hey, Code, this is Daniel with ABC Company. I just want to give you a quick heads up. We're sending out some information on a campaign that actually expires pretty soon. And I want to make sure you have your hands on it, whether you decide to use it or not, completely up to you. But I was assigned to make sure you got this information. So it's going to your email. You know, is this email still valid? Right? Or I could send it to you via email, or I can go over the details with you by phone. How would you like it? Does that make sense?
That's nice.
Now
Yeah.
it's already in motion. So they can only comply. But even if they said, no, I'm not interested, what are you not interested in? I'm just giving you insight on some information, right? So that it's less threatening, and you'll be able to drive the conversation. Because if they say, you know what, Daniel, just go ahead and email it to me, then my response is, okay, great. Before I send it, while I have you on the phone, let me make sure I button it up to make it worth your time. Now I'm in the conversation. Make sense?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I can see that you're having the closing type of response at the end, where if you say it, then it just only the outcome is it's either yes or no, and it doesn't sound threatening at all. It's not like, oh, how are you and stuff like that. It's like, okay, another telemarketer, right? So yeah. Okay. All right then. So let's say that we got a sales guy. He's going into a company, and he's not given any leads. Right, he has to start from scratch. Well, where would you start to generate leads?
Yeah, so to start, depending on the company, you know, you want to do intel, you want to do some research and figure out who your target person is. So, you know, some companies, their target person can be HR because they might sell recruiting services, right? But then again, some other companies might look for, you know, management or CFO. Whoever it is, first and foremost, you have to do intel. So you have to research the company and make sure you understand who you're looking for and who's working under that individual, right? Because the mistake is a lot of salespeople will go into a business and they won't actually have a plan. They'll just say, "Hi, my name is, you know, such and such, and I'm with this company. Can I give you some flyers, or can I give you a card, or can I do a presentation, or is the manager here?" Right? Whereas if you did intel first and you figured out a way to covertly penetrate that business by finding out that your contact, let's just say his name was Jim, under Jim is maybe 2 or 3 different people, but your goal is actually approach them, not the top person. Does that make sense? So this is how it would sound. So even if you went into the business or you called first, you would give them a call and say, you know, hey, the reason why I'm contacting you is because we have a campaign that's, you know, within this area, and it's for businesses like this, and the campaign expires. So I just need to make sure I get this information to the right hands, right? Now, before I do, let me ask you, you may already have a vendor for this service. Can I ask you what's something you wish you could change about it, or something that maybe that service lacks, right? And then they'll tell you, because it's non-threatening. It's just, you know, it's saying, yeah, you know, we use this vendor, and, you know, to be honest, I don't know of any complaints. Then you say, okay, well, what is everyone saying about that vendor service? Because you're trying to get intel so you can craft your pitch for the right person, which is Jim. But by the time you get to Jim, instead of saying, "Hi, how can I help you?" you're already armed with the information from the inside saying, "Hey, my services do A, B, and C." Now, the A, B, and C is in direct correlation with the complaints or what they wish their current vendor did. Now it's speaking to Jim in a different way, right? But you're still playing hard to get. So you're not saying, "Hey, hire us because we do this." You're still utilizing something that is expiring. So you're capitalizing on the FOMO effect, right? So, hey, there's this campaign that's expiring, you know, at the end of next month. I want to make sure you got your hands on it, because a lot of companies like this one choose to work with us because A, B, and C. Now, A, B, and C, again, is specific to what they wish they could change from their current vendor. And that gets your foot in.
Yeah, I like that. So you mentioned you don't have to go to the decision maker. You just start with the people who's related to the decision maker first, and then you just work your way up, right? Because they can ultimately influence the decision maker. Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Awesome.
And they could give you intel that you probably wouldn't get directly from the manager.
That's awesome. Okay, so also I was looking at your YouTube. Sales Remastered. It's a great brand. I love it. So you started about 4 years ago. I watched one of your videos where I just think you just started in your garage, and you know, it was like one of those Ty Lopez moments, you know, in my garage. But it was good, you know. Yeah. How did you, like, what sparked the interest in starting the YouTube, and what's your routine in growing it and everything? It's growing really fast. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you very much. What actually really got me into it were a couple influencers that I started following, you know, anywhere from like Ed Milet to, you know, Gary Vaynerchuk, and And what they're talking about was, I always wanted to build a business. I always wanted that. And I always thought it had to be brick and mortar, like it had to be a retail location. And the more I dove into the content from these influencers, they advise, nowadays you don't need a brick and mortar location. You just need a page. And so, more and more research, they were talking about if you're good at something, then produce content around that so that you can attract a community who are also on the same mission or same path as you. Now, the key thing is, though, what helped grow was, one, I forced myself to do it, regardless of how I looked, what I was wearing, what I was saying. And you may have noticed, if you look at my original videos, I was very aggressive. So I'm cursing a lot. And the reason for that was because that was my insecurity. I had to be tough, but as you grow and you keep posting, even though your post gets 1 view, 2 views, 1 like, you have to understand that you need to build momentum. And I think that is really the key thing with anyone building a podcast, building a brand. You have to understand at first, there's no momentum. Nothing is pushing you and saying, hey, do this, hey, do that. You're kind of just winging it. But after so many attempts, you just naturally grow. So then you go to edits and then you start, creating more different type of content, different topics, different matters. And so, my regimen was, I always did it after the gym on my way home because I was primed, I was pumped. And I think that also helped me be comfortable in putting content out there, not worrying, how do I look? How do I sound? Right? Because you have that fear, that inner voice in saying, do you look dumb? Are you saying the right things? Right?
Yeah.
But you just got to push past that. And even though I believe that the content that I put out there is unlike a ton of channels and resources that are available, it still hasn't reached its peak. It's not there yet, even 4 years later, but I'm still pushing it out. But what it enabled me to do was connect with so many people across the world, right? I mean, look at us. I'm in Southern California, in Australia, right? I got people in Middle East contacting me, Canada, everywhere across the globe saying, hey, thank you so much. And then that becomes social proof, because that was the goal. I didn't launch a course or a product at the very beginning, even though that was my intent. I had to build a following. I had to get social proof and reviews and show people that, even though I do content, it's not for my program, it's for you. And I think that is something that, anyone making a brand right now or trying to do like a podcast or build like a business on social media, one of the mistakes that I see often is it's sales. All it is sales. Hey, I got this program, or hey, I got this book. Hey, I got this download. But that call to action should really be saved until after your value has been brought, because you're winning them over. And at the end of the video, they should be at a climatic state saying, man, that was good. Now I have your buy-in. And so if I give you a call to action, go download my free script, you're more likely to do it because I've demonstrated my worth to you first. Whereas a lot of salespeople have it backwards. So they'll give call to actions, do this, do that. And then they'll, try and provide value. And it's just like pitching, there's a sequential order that you need to do things. Like for example, most pitches start off with price and fees, and then options, and then benefit. You have to start with benefit first. The fees and costs or call to action should be the very last piece.
Yeah. I like, before when we were talking on the podcast, you mentioned that, you just want to provide value. And I love that, you just want to give value first. It's not about just, showing up, pitching and just vomiting your sales pitch, right? It's just focus on just giving value. So I really, really appreciate that. Okay. So all right. So let's say another question is, let's say you were to go into a time machine, go back maybe 10, maybe even 20 years or something, and talk to your younger self. What would you say?
Oh man, that's a great question. What I would say is that, you are you are perfecting a craft that will enable you to do all that you want and more. And the key thing is, though, is that you got to continue raising the bar on yourself. Don't be content. And why I would tell my young self that is because, like a lot of salespeople who are probably listening, you have a goal, but when you reach that goal, where do you go, right? So maybe the goal is I want to make $120,000 a year, or I want to make $10,000 a month, which is great. But if you don't have a true why you want to reach it, meaning your why could be to get Gucci flip-flops or a new car, right? Or a new condo. You have to continue raising. And so in other words, yeah, I want to make 10,000, but the reason is because it will enable me to do this. And that is what you need to know. So if I could take a trip back to the younger me, I would tell myself to really plan in building an empire, as opposed to, just making sales and spending it faster than you can make it. Because that's what most salespeople do. They come across a ton of money and they'll spend it really quick, thinking it's always going to be like that, but it's not. And one valuable lesson I would also tell myself is when you sell, or when you're prospecting, or when you're targeting an audience, or you're marketing, it's always best to come from a place of confidence as opposed to desperation. Because if you are really desperate for that sale to close because you need it, like you have no money, or times are tough, it's going to be very hard for you to focus on the person, the prospect. Whereas if you always have reserves, meaning you make money, but always pay yourself first and stack your money, you will always have a sense of confidence, because your tonality will be more or less like, I don't care if you do this deal. I'm just helping you. So whether you decide to do it, that's the hard to get. That's the tonality. That's why the tonality is different from most salespeople. And you can only really truly do that if you're confident enough to know that if that sale doesn't happen, you're okay. And you want to radiate that, because people want what they can't have, right? And I think that's why the FOMO approach works. But more importantly, they also want what doesn't seem desperate. So if it's almost like a hard to get, like a collaboration versus a pitch, they're more compliant.
Absolutely love that. People want what they can't have, right? Okay, yeah. So how can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, so you can find me all over YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and of course the website. The handle is @ Sales Remastered. And I called it Sales Remastered because what I'm doing is I'm taking sales, which has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and simply remastering it, improving it, and modernizing it. So if you go to any of the apps, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and you search in the search bar Sales Remastered, you'll find my channel. And I have a free sales script too that I share with every sales community, completely free. You can find that at the website, salesremastered.com. Bottom of the home page. And the sales script may sound like it's for loan officers, but if you understand the idea and the technique and the strategy, you could apply it to anything.
Beautiful. Absolutely. So it's at salesremastered.com, and you can get your free script there. And also your YouTube channel. What's your YouTube channel? Because you got some really amazing content there as well.
Yeah. The YouTube channel is at Sales Remastered. And I think right now we're about 12,500 subscribers. It is growing, and there's content there every single day. So every single day you get a snip of some valuable content to help you learn that sales is a form of communication. It's not a grind. It's not a job. And if you can pick up these tidbits, you'll do great.
Beautiful. All right, Daniel, really appreciate your time today, man. Wish you all the best for future endeavors, and keep killing it, keep hustling. And we'll see you online. And man, just keep inspiring the world, man.
My pleasure. I appreciate that, Khoa. Thank you, everyone listening. Appreciate your time.
No worries. All right. Thanks, man. Cool.